They say the Jefferson Tower is empty after 9 p.m. They're wrong. My name is Marcus Webb. I've been the night security guard here for 5 years. Same shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 nights a week. Same rounds every hour. Same empty hallways. Same silence. I sit at my desk in the lobby, watch the bank of 16 security monitors, and sip my coffee. For 5 years, nothing has ever happened. Until 3 months ago. That's when I first saw her. I was doing my usual monitor check when I saw movement on the 15th floor. A woman, walking down the hallway. I leaned in, squinting at the screen. I rewound the footage and played it again. There she was, clear as day. A young woman in a business suit, carrying a laptop bag, walking right past the camera. The timestamp read 11:24 p.m. The building had been locked down for over 2 hours. No one had signed in. My first thought was that someone got locked in after work. It happens. People fall asleep in conference rooms, lose track of time. Simple. I grabbed my flashlight and headed for the 15th floor. Building policy. Anyone found after hours needs to be escorted out. Sign the late work log. I'd done it a dozen times before. The elevator doors opened to darkness. Only the emergency lights were glowing red. I stepped out, my flashlight beam cutting through the shadows. "Security!" I called out. My voice echoed, weird and lonely in the empty space. "The building's closed. I need you to come with me to sign out." Nothing. No response, no sound of footsteps, no doors closing. Just that heavy silence that only happens in empty office buildings at night. I checked every office, my flashlight beam dancing across empty desks and blank computer screens. I checked the conference rooms, the break room, the bathrooms. Nothing. Nobody. When I got back to the desk, I was confused. I checked the footage again. But the woman, she was gone. Like she'd never been there. I rewound to the original sighting, 11:24 p.m. I played it. The woman walked past the camera, clear as day. I fast-forwarded to my search. Just me, in an empty hall. Rewind, she's there. Fast forward, she's gone. Probably just tired, I told myself. Eyes playing tricks. 5 years of night shifts can do that to you. I went back to my newspaper, my coffee, the normal routine. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Something about that woman, the way she moved, the way she just disappeared. 2 hours later, she appeared again. I was dozing in my chair when my eyes snapped open. Same floor, same hallway, same woman. Walking like she had somewhere to be. This time, I was ready. I practically ran to the elevator. Whatever this was, a malfunction, a prankster, my own exhaustion, I was going to figure it out. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out fast, flashlight up, ready to... She was standing there. Right there in the hallway. About 20 feet away, with her back to me. Not moving, not running, just standing there. My heart hammered against my ribs. My flashlight beam locked onto her, but she didn't react. Didn't even flinch. I took a shaky step forward. "Miss?" My voice came out strangled. Too loud and too scared. "The building's closed. You need to..." She turned around, slowly. Her face came into the light. She was young, professional. But her eyes, they were empty, distant. She was looking at me, but it felt like she was looking right through me. That's when I knew. This wasn't someone who got locked in. This wasn't a prank. Her lips moved, like she was trying to tell me something, but no sound came out. And then, she flickered, like a bad TV signal. Once, twice. For a split second, I could see the hallway right through her, and then she was gone. Vanished. Just like that. The air where she stood was empty. I just stood there, my flashlight shaking, staring at the empty space. My brain was screaming, trying to find a logical explanation, but there was no logical explanation. I just saw a ghost. The security cameras didn't show her. Just me, standing in an empty hallway, talking to nothing. I thought about calling it in, telling my supervisor, but telling him what? That I saw a ghost, that I'm losing my mind. 5 more hours of my shift to go, alone in a building where impossible things happen. Instead, I did what anyone would do. I Googled the building, Jefferson Tower history, Jefferson Tower deaths, and that's when I found it. A news article from 2 years ago. Sarah Mitchell, 28 years old, marketing analyst, died after falling from a 15th floor window while working late. The photo in the article, it was her. The same woman I just saw walking that hallway. Same business clothes, same laptop bag. My blood ran cold. According to the articles, Sarah Mitchell worked late constantly, dedicated, driven, trying to make partner. The night she died, security cameras showed her leaving the 15th floor at 9:15 p.m. But here's the thing that bothered me. The cameras also showed her leaving the building, walking through this lobby, waving to the night guard. At 9:47 p.m., 32 minutes after leaving the 15th floor, she stood right here, right where I'm standing now, smiled at the guard, said goodnight, then walked out those doors and somehow ended up dead in the alley behind the building. What happened in those 32 minutes? The police ruled it accidental. They said she must have gone back upstairs after leaving, gone to that conference room, opened the window, fell. But why would cameras show her leaving if she went back up? And I checked the logs, my predecessor's logs from that night. No one re-entered after 9:30 p.m. Something didn't add up. I spent the next hour watching those monitors like a hawk, waiting. She'd appeared twice already. Would there be a third time? At 3:47 a.m., she appeared again. Same hallway, same direction, walking towards the conference room at the end. This time, I watched her path. She walked right to the conference room door, the same room where they found the window open, where she supposedly fell. She opened the door, stepped inside, and disappeared from view. I had to see that conference room. I had to understand what happened. Maybe if I saw where she died, I'd understand why she's still walking that hallway. The elevator ride felt longer this time. I looked at her photo on my phone. Sarah Mitchell. What happened to you? The conference room door was unlocked. I pushed it open slowly. My flashlight swept across the empty table, the chairs, the whiteboard still covered in 2-year-old meeting notes. And there it was. The window. The one they replaced after she died. I walked toward it slowly. From this height, there'd be no surviving the fall. I stepped back, trying to imagine what happened. Did she jump? Did she fall? Or did someone push her? What happened to you? I asked out loud, my voice echoing in the empty room. What are you trying to? I heard a sound behind me and turned. She was standing there, closer than before. Her lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. I stepped closer, trying to hear. Her whisper was so faint, like wind through cracks. He pushed me. Who? I asked urgently. Who pushed you? She raised her arm slowly, pointing. Not at the window, at the door, at an office across the hall. When I turned back, she was gone. But I knew what I had to do. I had to find out whose office she was pointing to. I had to find out who killed Sarah Mitchell. Robert Chen, Senior Vice President. I'd seen him around the building, late 50s, expensive suits, always on the phone. Important, powerful. Opening that door without authorization could cost me my job. But a woman was murdered, and nobody knew. I turned the key. Chen's office looked like what you'd expect. Expensive everything. Photos of him with the mayor, with celebrities, with his family. A perfect life. A perfect career. I searched his desk, his files, looking for what I didn't know. Some connection to Sarah, some proof, something. But everything was locked. Then I saw it, hidden behind some books on his shelf. A photograph. Sarah Mitchell and Robert Chen at some company party. His arm around her waist, both smiling, close, very close. The way they stood together. This wasn't just a boss and an employee. This was something more. Something secret. Something worth hiding. I couldn't access his computer, But I had access to something else. Building security logs. Every time someone uses their badge to enter or exit. Every floor. Every time. I scrolled to the night Sarah died. There. Her badge scanned out of the 15th floor at 9:15 p.m. Lobby exit at 9:47 p.m. Those 32 missing minutes, and right after her, Robert Chen. He left the 15th floor at 9:52 p.m., just 5 minutes after she appeared in the lobby. The police said she was alone on the 15th floor. They said she must have gone back up after leaving. But the badge logs don't lie. Chen was there. He left after her. I sat there, trying to piece it together. Sarah leaves at 9:15, but doesn't reach the lobby for 32 minutes. What happened in those 32 minutes? Maybe they argued. An affair gone wrong. She threatened to tell his wife. Tell the company. He panicked. They struggled. He pushed. But if she fell at 9:15, how did the cameras see her in the lobby at 9:47? That's what the police couldn't figure out. That's what made them rule it accidental. I pulled up the lobby footage from that night, watched Sarah Mitchell wave goodnight to the security guard at 9:47 p.m. She smiled and walked out the doors. But something was off. I watched it again and again. The way she moved. Too smooth. Too perfect. Like video footage played back on a screen. I checked Chen's exit footage. There he was at 9:54, leaving the building, carrying a laptop bag. Her laptop bag. He must have had footage of her leaving from previous nights. The same routine. She always left around that time, waved to security, always the same. So he killed her at 9:15, pushed her out that window. Then he took her laptop. It had recordings or webcam footage of her leaving the building from other nights. He played it on a screen in the lobby. The camera captured the screen, not a real person. The security guard saw what he expected to see, Sarah leaving for the night. Chen created a digital ghost to hide a real murder. I turned. Sarah was standing there, watching me. And for the first time, she looked at peace. Like finally, someone understood. Someone believed her. She pointed to her neck. Even on her ghostly form, I could see them. Bruises, hand marks. He strangled her first, then threw her out to make it look like a fall. "I'll help you," I told her. "I promise. The truth will come out." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen. And then she started to fade, not disappearing, fading like the dawn coming. Like she could finally rest. She was gone. Really gone. I could feel it. The weight in that hallway lifted. Whatever kept her trapped here, my knowing the truth had freed her. But my job wasn't over. Now I had to prove it. I had the badge logs, the photo, the theory. But it was just a theory. How could I prove he used a recording? I looked at the lobby footage again, zooming in. The guard on duty that night. I knew him. Frank. He retired last year. Maybe he remembered something. Anything. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. I looked up his number. It was 5 a.m. I hesitated, then dialed. "Frank," I said when he answered. "It's Marcus from building security. I need to ask you about the night Sarah Mitchell died." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I was wondering when someone would call, he finally said, his voice heavy. There was something I never told the police. My heart hammered in my chest. This was it. "What was it, Frank? What did you see?" He sighed. "It's not what I saw. It's what I didn't see. Her reflection. When she walked past the glass doors, I didn't see her reflection." The digital ghost. It wouldn't have a reflection. Chen had been clever, but not clever enough. "Frank," I said, "you just broke this case wide open." I knew what I had to do. I couldn't go to the police. They'd dismissed it once, and my evidence was illegally obtained. This was corporate. This needed a corporate solution. I went back to Chen's office. This time, I didn't need to break in. I waited. At 8:30 a.m., he arrived, looking refreshed, powerful, not a care in the world. He stopped when he saw me sitting in his chair. Security? What is the meaning of this? I stood up and placed the hidden photograph on his desk. His face went pale. I know what you did, Robert, I said quietly. I know about Sarah. His composure cracked, just for a second. Fear flashed in his eyes before being replaced by anger. You have no idea what you're talking about. Get out of my office before I have you fired. I didn't move. Her ghost told me, I said, watching his reaction. He laughed, a strained, ugly sound. You're insane. Am I? I laid out the timeline, the badge scans, the 32 missing minutes, the impossible lobby sighting, and finally, the reflection, the missing reflection. Frank, the guard on duty, he remembers. He remembers not seeing her reflection in the glass doors. The color drained from his face completely. He sank into the chair opposite me. What do you want? He whispered. I want justice for Sarah, I said. You're going to confess. Not to the police, to the board, to her family. You're going to tell them everything. How you strangled her in a fit of rage when she tried to end your affair. How you threw her from that window. How you created a digital ghost to give yourself an alibi. He stared at me, his empire crumbling around him. The man who had everything was about to lose it all. It wouldn't bring Sarah back, but it was a start. It was the promise I made to a ghost in a dark hallway. And I intended to keep it. The story doesn't end here. Getting a confession from a man like Chen and making it stick is a whole other battle. If you want to find out how I finally brought him to justice and what other secrets this building holds, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. My shift had just 30 minutes left. I could call the police right then and there, hand over everything I'd found, and let them handle it. It was the smart move, the safe move. But men like Chen, rich and powerful, they don't go down easy. He'd lawyer up in a heartbeat, destroy any lingering evidence, and call in every favor he was owed. No, I needed more. I needed a confession. I needed him to admit what he did. So I took the elevator to the 15th floor one last time. In the soft light of dawn, the floor looked normal. It was just another office space, stripped of its nighttime menace. The ghosts and shadows were gone. It was just a place where something truly terrible had happened 2 years ago. I went into the conference room and waited. The very same room where Sarah Mitchell had lost her life. The room her ghost had paced for 2 years, trying to tell someone, anyone, what had really happened. I was that someone. At 7:05 a.m., the elevator dinged. Robert Chen stepped out. Expensive suit, expensive coffee, already deep in a deal on his Bluetooth headset. He noticed the light on in the conference room and, with an annoyed frown, walked over to investigate. When he opened the door and saw me sitting there, his expression flickered through annoyance, then confusion, and finally, a barely concealed anger. "I'll call you back," he snapped into his earpiece. "What the hell are you doing in here? This floor is executive only. You're the night guard, right? You have no authorization." I didn't say a word. I just slid the photograph across the polished table. A picture of him and Sarah Mitchell together. The affair he'd kept buried for 2 long years. His face went pale. His hand shook as he picked it up. "Where did you get this?" "This is theft. Breaking and entering. You're fired. I'm calling..." "You're calling who?" I cut him off. "The police? Good, because that's who I'm calling next." He tried to bluster his way out of it, puffing up his chest. "This is nothing. A casual lunch. I mentor dozens of young employees. You're making a psychotic leap, security guard. You have no idea what you're dealing with." A casual lunch that resulted in over 200 romantic texts? I asked, sliding the printed messages across the table. The last ones were arguments, threats. You told her you'd ruin her career if she left you. You told her you'd make her pay. The fight just drained out of him. He stared around the room, at the very spot where it happened, the memory washing over his face. "It was an accident," he mumbled. his voice a ragged whisper. He sank back into his chair. She was breaking up with me. I panicked. I pushed her. Not hard, but she tripped. She just fell. And the fake footage, I pressed. The video that was lost and recovered after being doctored to make it look like a suicide. Did that just happen too? He buried his head in his hands, trembling. I had to, he sobbed. The powerful CEO gone, replaced by a pathetic, terrified man. I worked my whole life for this. It would have ruined me. I called in a favor. I made it look like she took her own life. I destroyed the evidence. I didn't say another word. I just pulled out my phone. I'd been recording since he walked in. The evidence, the confession. I finally dialed the number I'd been waiting to call for 2 years. Detective Thompson. Chen looked up, his eyes wide with terror as he saw me on the phone. He tried to lunge, but just then, the door burst open. Detective Thompson and her partner walked in. They'd been waiting on the floor below, ready for my signal. Thompson flashed her badge. Robert Chen, you are under arrest for the murder of Sarah Mitchell. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, he just went limp. It was over. I watched them lead him away. The entire confrontation had taken less than 5 minutes. As she passed, Thompson gave me a quick, respectful nod. I was completely drained, but I knew I'd done the right thing. I looked around the now empty conference room. The sun was fully up, streaming through the window. The shadows were gone. The fear was gone. And she was gone. Her work was done. My work was done. Detective Thompson closed her notebook. You did good work, Marcus. Real detective work. Most people would have ignored what they saw, called it stress, fatigue. I just shrugged, feeling the exhaustion of the last 24 hours. Most people don't see ghosts. She offered a small, knowing smile. Most people don't believe in them. But sometimes people who can't rest won't rest until justice is served. I almost didn't believe it myself. I thought I was losing my mind. But Sarah, she was so persistent. She needed someone to see, to finally understand what had happened to her. Thompson leaned forward, her voice low. We looked into it after Chen confessed. Subpoenaed his accounts. We found payments to a tech guy who helped fake that laptop footage. Chen's been paying him hush money for 2 years. The guy flipped immediately. She stood up and extended her hand. As I shook it, her grip was firm. Sarah Mitchell's family will finally have answers. Closure. All because you didn't ignore what you saw. Her parents never believed it was an accident, she added. They knew their daughter. They knew she wouldn't fall. They've been waiting 2 years for this truth. By the afternoon, it was everywhere. News channels were camped outside the Jefferson Tower. VP arrested for murder, the headline screamed. Sarah's beautiful photo was on every screen, followed by images of Robert Chen in handcuffs and her parents, crying with what looked like a painful mix of grief and relief. The ghost story that solved a 2-year-old cold case. I finally left the building as the sun was coming up. I was drained, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. A feeling that my job and my life actually mattered. When I got back to my apartment, I tried to sleep, but the adrenaline was still pumping. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with calls from news stations, my boss, even paranormal investigators. I silenced it, desperate for some quiet. My eyes landed on an old photo on my coffee table. It was me on my first day in the security uniform, 5 years ago. I'd taken that job as a temporary fix after losing my career, after my divorce, after everything fell apart. But temporary had turned into 5 long years of feeling invisible, like my life didn't amount to anything anymore. But Sarah saw me. Out of everyone in that building, she chose me. Because somehow, she knew I would listen. She knew I would care. I walked over to the window and looked out at the city. Thank you, Sarah, I whispered, for reminding me I could still make a difference. When I went back to work the next week, The building manager called me into his office. I was sure I was about to be fired. I'd broken about a dozen protocols, entering executive offices and running my own unauthorized investigation. The board met yesterday, he began, about everything. Robert Chen, Sarah Mitchell, you. I braced myself. Technically, yes, you broke protocol. I started to stand up, ready to accept my fate. I understand. I'll clean out my locker. Let me finish, he said, holding up a hand. You also solved a murder that the police missed. You showed integrity, initiative, and intelligence. The board wants to offer you a position. I was stunned. He continued, a position in corporate security, real investigative work, better pay, day shift. He slid a contract across the desk. It was everything I'd wanted 5 years ago, everything I thought I'd lost forever. Can I ask, who suggested this? I managed to say. He smiled. Sarah Mitchell's father. He's on the board of directors. He wanted to thank you personally. This is how. The next day, I met David Mitchell. He shook my hand and couldn't seem to let go, his eyes welling with tears. Thank you, he kept saying. Thank you for seeing her, for listening. He showed me photos of Sarah, as a child, at her college graduation, her whole life sparkling ahead of her. She was going places, he said quietly, and Chen took that away. He looked at me, his voice trembling slightly. Do you believe she was really there? Her ghost? I met his gaze without hesitation. She was there. I saw her as clearly as I see you now. She walked that hallway every single night, determined to tell someone what happened. She never, ever gave up. He broke down then, crying with a mix of pride and sorrow. That's my Sarah, he said through the tears. Never gave up on anything. Not in life, and not in death. The next Sunday, I visited Sarah's grave. I brought a single white lily, her favorite flower. I knelt down and placed it against the cool stone. Hey Sarah, I said softly. Just wanted to say, you can rest now, Chen confessed. Your family knows the truth. Justice is served. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and for a moment, the sun broke through the clouds, warming the gravestone. I felt it then, a profound sense of peace. She was gone, truly at peace. As I stood to leave, I touched the headstone one last time. 3 months later, I walked into my new office. It wasn't much, but it was mine. It had a desk, a computer, and best of all, a window with actual daylight. My new nameplate read, Marcus Webb, Security Investigator. I wasn't just a guard anymore. I was doing real detective work, investigating everything from employee theft to corporate espionage. The work was good. It was meaningful. I wasn't invisible anymore, not just the night guard people walked past without a second glance. I was someone who solved problems, someone who found the truth, but I still found myself drawn back down to the lobby sometimes, checking in on the new night guard. I wanted to make sure they really knew the systems, knew the building. Pay attention, I told a new hire one night, a young woman, nervous on her first shift. Really look, sometimes you see things that don't make sense. Trust your instincts, don't dismiss them. Investigate. Of course, she asked the question I knew was coming. Is it true? What they say about the 15th floor? About you seeing a ghost? I could have laughed it off, told her it was just a story. But Sarah taught me that truth matters, especially the uncomfortable kind. Yes, I said, my voice quiet. It's true. I saw her. Sarah Mitchell. She was murdered here 2 years ago. And she walked these halls until someone listened. Until someone believed her. The young guard's eyes widened. You really saw a ghost. I really did, I confirmed. And she changed my life. This job, we're not just watching for burglars or fire hazards. We're guardians of people, of truth, of the vulnerable who need someone to see them. I could see something shift in the new guard's eyes as she looked at the monitors, a new sense of respect and responsibility dawning. I patted her shoulder. You'll do fine. Just remember, pay attention. One day, I took the elevator up to the 15th floor, for the first time since that night. In the bright daylight, with employees bustling around, it looked so normal. Just offices, just hallways. The company had remodeled, trying to erase the memory with new furniture and fresh carpet. But I remembered. I'd always remember. I stopped outside the conference room where a meeting was in progress. "Sorry, wrong room," I started to say, but then I paused. "Actually, do any of you know about Sarah Mitchell?" Most of them looked confused. One older employee nodded sadly. "I worked with Sarah, brilliant marketer, tragic accident." I shook my head gently. "Not an accident. She was murdered. Robert Chen killed her right here in this room, but she didn't let him get away with it. Just wanted you to know. She mattered. Her story matters." A stunned silence fell over the room. Outside that door now, there's a small brass plaque on the wall. It took some convincing, but the company approved it. It reads, "In memory of Sarah Mitchell. Her truth will not be forgotten." Simple, dignified, permanent. Now every person who walks this hallway will see her name. Her story, the real story, will live on. My life started to feel normal again. I left work at 6 p.m. now, walking out into the daylight with everyone else. The life I'd lost 5 years ago was slowly coming back. My family was talking to me again. Relationships I'd let die from shame and isolation were healing. I wasn't the same broken man hiding from the world who took that security job. I was walking tall, a man with a purpose. I even started trying new things. I stopped at a coffee shop where the barista knew my name. "The usual, Marcus?" she asked. I smiled. "Actually, surprise me today." She handed me some fancy latte, and I sat by the window and opened my laptop. I started writing. The story of Sarah Mitchell, of seeing her ghost, of solving her murder. But it was my story too. How she appeared to me when I was at my lowest, when I felt worthless, and by trusting me, she showed me I could still make a difference. I typed the final line. "In helping her find peace, I found mine." Thank you, Sarah Mitchell, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. I closed the laptop and finished my coffee, feeling a sense of peace. I walked home under the same stars that shine over Sarah's grave. I unlocked the door to my small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was home. I was okay, genuinely okay. Looking out my window at the city lights, at all the other lit windows, I thought about all the stories held within those walls. They say the building is empty after 9 p.m. They're wrong. It's full of stories, of presences that linger. Some of them need our help. They need to be seen, to be heard. We just have to be willing to listen. Because sometimes the people who seem invisible, the ghosts, the security guards, the forgotten ones, they're the ones who matter most. Thanks for watching my story unfold. If it resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content. It really helps the channel out. Take care.